Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Game Over Toronto, where we have a very, very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, this man needs no introduction, but I'm going to have to give him one anyway. He is a multi-time WWE champion, a multi-time tag team champion. He is a WWE Hall of Famer. He is the pride of Orangeville, Ontario. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Copeland, a.k.a. the Rated R Superstar Edge. Welcome to the show.
That was pretty well done. I'm missing my pyro.
I was pyro.
That was part of my rider, guys. That and the green M&Ms. But
you have to do that. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. We'll try that. I was actually going to add the voice crack of Tony Kimmel.
Yeah, the
iconic superstar. But yeah, no, yes, I had to throw that down there just to live my my announcer dreams. So yeah, welcome. We're really glad we got you on for a Leafs win because it might have been a different. It might have been a different scenario without a Leafs win, but
different tone for sure. And when you asked me, I thought, well, the Tampa game, right? Because Tampa.
It's
so thankfully, because I was at the last game in Tampa, and so I was there to see Marner break the record, which was amazing, and it was a great game. But of course, OT. So. So I was quite happy that we got one tonight.
And I heard you were sporting a Leafs jersey in Tampa. Like this is what I heard through the grapevine.
So here's the story, right? So my best friend Jay, who wrestles as Christian, he goes, "Hey, I got tickets to the Tampa game." Cool, awesome. And it was just past his birthday, so we kind of celebrated both of our birthdays. All I brought was a Leafs t-shirt to wear, and I didn't know that we were staying in the Lightning's hospitality suite to watch the game. So I walk in and they're like, "You can't wear that." I'm like, "Oh,
hold. Yeah. Sorry, the audio is a little bit quiet. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So I went, "Well, this is all I have." They said, "Well, you have to, change." I was like, "Well, I'm not going to buy a Tampa shirt, so I'll go watch it somewhere else." So I went and watched it in a different suite where I could actually cheer for the Leafs and enjoy the game.
Oh, that makes my heart warm.
You're like Elaine from Seinfeld in the episode where she's in the Yankees owner's box
exactly,
with the
Orioles hat.
Yeah.
So when I told my wife, I was like, "You're never gonna believe this," but because I wouldn't change my shirt, I couldn't watch the game there. And she's like, "Dude, what?" I was like, "Yeah." So there it is.
Yeah, it's a good thing we got
who said no to you? I would be so terrified. Like, "Mr. Edge, sir, please don't hurt me."
Well, I guess it's the owner's box, right? So I mean, I get it. I guess it's still a little strange to me, but yeah. So I just went down and enjoyed it somewhere else.
That's good. Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to this game. We're going to get to some stories, some fun. But first, I got to shout out our sponsor, Sports Interaction. Think you know which way it's going to go. Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's World Cup, which has passed, sorry about that, hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live, and play are one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/STPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/STPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. So
right. we gotta get into this game because all right, let's talk about the scenario going into this, because the Leafs were on a 2-game skid, right? They did not look good, and the Lightning, on the other hand, man, were they looking like one of the hottest teams right now, right? I mean, in that 5-game winning streak, they had 24 freaking goals and they only let in 7. By all intents and purposes, this was supposed to be a rough game for the Leafs, but in classic Leafs fashion, we won 4-1. We limited them drastically in this game. And yeah, speaking about that first though, Bunton, can we say more about this guy? Like, that snipe, first of all, and then the situation with Dan Kelly. That was hilarious to say the least.
I thought it was watching like WrestleMania, and he was like, it was like Triple H was a special guest referee or something. Like,
it was
what's
really
going on
odd.
here?
It was really, really odd. I was like, wait, what is he? And then,
is he allowed to do
2
that?
and 3 more times? It's not just one. It's like a triple shove and like down the hallway. I've never seen that.
I actually saw Darcy Tucker tweeted that there was a referee that he showed up when he was fighting and being crazy like Darcy Tucker is, that the referee pushed him into the hallway like much harder. But I'm like, I don't think that's a good thing if your league is has special guest referees, basically.
Well, and to be fair, good on Bunting for not doing something back, because somebody shoving you like that, instant kicks in. I know somebody shoves me like that, they're on their ass. So
I think so.
So good on him for not getting any suspension or something from it. But he played great tonight. He's that guy, kind of like Ken Linsman back in the day, and I'm dating myself now, but those type of players are so needed. And for years, the Leafs, I mean, Hyman didn't really fill that role. He was awesome. I loved Hyman, but he wasn't quite the instigator that Bunting is. And I feel like sometimes he does that and it backfires, but then other times it seems to fire the team up. And he was just all over the place tonight. It was definitely his game there, that first period for sure.
Exactly. And like you saw, I mean, that whole situation happened because Bunting was trying to stand up for Marner, right? So you see like the camaraderie, and it's great to see them sticking up for their fellow players, right? But Dan Kelly, what are you doing in that situation, right? I mean, can you give a ref a roughing penalty? What was happening there?
I mean, there's going to be something. I'm sure he'll get fined or something, or whatever they do to referees. I don't know.
He'll get a stern talking to from the league.
Yes.
Probably not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shout out to Kyle Cushman, right? But he tweeted out about this, and he pointed out that this is the same Dan Kelly that threw an elbow at the head of Andreas Janssen that concussed him in 2016, the Calder Cup playoffs, right?
Wow.
So
I didn't know that either. Yeah,
that was a 10-game suspension that he had because of that. So
I could see something coming from it. The fact that it's Bunting, I think people will go, oh, okay, well, it was Bunting, so I kind of get, like, if he'd done that to TJ Brody or something, you'd be like, what the no. But yeah, I thought they played great tonight. To me, that was one of their most complete games. That 5-0 win over Dallas a couple of weeks ago. They just looked super strong. And to me, in New York, it was Shesterkin. To me, he's the best goalie in the league. I know Vasilevsky is Vasilevsky, but Shesterkin, man, he just played off his rocker that night. And I think that's what really got them. And then in Washington, they just looked tired. And I feel like Samsonov might have been, playing the X team. The whole with Ovi, when is he gonna break Howe's record? There was a lot going on in that game too. And Washington, their crowd, they're a good home crowd. Toronto could learn something off them, actually.
Ooh, you hear that, Leaf fans?
Hey,
Edge just called you out.
Here's the thing. I think most of the lower seats are businessmen trying to close a deal who could care less about a hockey game, which is a shame. Because you go to Chicago, hell, you go to Montreal, my God, that place is rocking. I wish a Leafs game felt that way, and I'm sure come playoffs it will. But yeah,
we have a fan of the show wrote in. His name is Steve Dangle. Question for Edge: what's a better place to watch the Leafs, at your own house or in a box in Tampa? I think we already touched on it, but
that story.
Yeah,
it's way better at home.
Yeah. And I got some
well played, Dangle.
Yeah, I got some people asking. Who wore the belt tonight? That's what people are asking tonight. So, who are you giving that illustrious belt to?
I mean, I think you got to go Bunting off of tonight. I mean, Matthews is all over the place, but he normally is. Hey, can we talk about those skates too? By the way,
Oh,
mean,
Yes.
beautiful.
yeah, like at first I'm watching him go, what is going on there? Like, and then when they explained the story, I was like, oh, wow, that's even better. But at first, just because I'm old, at first I thought, is it yellow laces? Is he doing the Ovechkin? Like, what is going on there? And then I got a better look. Yeah, I guess Bunting tonight.
All right. Michael Bunting,
Yeah.
you are the champ for tonight.
Listen, I also want to put some focus on that third line because holy
Right.
crap, they're really firing and they had a lot of good opportunities in that first and second, right? I think it was like 4 or 5 really solid opportunities where they're just clicking on all they're just clicking really well and they're getting a lot of opportunities, they're getting a lot of shots up. It just couldn't go in early on. But yeah, they're continuing to look like a very strong line out there, right?
It feels like that's outside of Spets of the last couple of years. That's what the team's been missing, right? Is that bottom six to really start filling in those holes. For me, I've always liked Kampf. I love the way he plays. I love the way he hustles. Kerfoot, super fast, skilled player. To me, Engvall. So Engvall is a dude. He's built like friggin' Colossus from the X-Men, right? I wish that he played like Tavares with his size.
Yes.
Because
that's like the chief complaint.
If I watch Tavares, like when Tavares comes on, I'll just watch him and watch everything he does. And that dude does not stop grinding in those corners out in front of the net. Like, and I like Engvall a lot. I've always thought, amazing skater, great shot, big dude. But man, if he played like Cam Neely, not his style. I get it, and he'll be much healthier on the back end of his career for it, I'm sure. But it's good to see them really starting to come together, and Engvall specifically, because I've really always wanted him to kind of take off, and I often wondered what him and Matthews together would be like on a line.
Be interesting. I mean, the only time, there was a game before. I think it was the game against it was LA, I think, where he slashed the Sean Dursey in the head. And we're like, Engvall, we wanted you to be aggressive, but not to try to decapitate another player. Like,
maybe not with a stick. Yeah.
Don't Marty McSorley somebody else, please. Not today. Yeah. Michael Bunting got the
there
belt.
you go.
There you go. So we heard from producer Rob that Michael Bunting did get the belt from the team. So they heard you, Edge. They're listening. They're listening live in the locker room.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
I actually have direct access to the locker room from my Leafs room. I don't know.
There you go.
Just have them on speed dial.
Somebody in the chat here asked who would be the best pro wrestler on the Leafs and why would it be Bunting? And I'm like, I think he'd be the best promo. He would cut the best promo for sure out of the Leafs.
Yeah, he would definitely be the best heel. I think Giordano would be a good wrestler too.
Oh,
really
just a big body up there.
Just
right?
a big body, consistently consistently doing his job, not complaining about it, taking the league minimum just to play for the come on.
Yeah.
If you don't love Giordano,
Gio looks like he looks like such a fan.
If a Leafs fan complains about that guy, you're just that guy. Then you're the guy at the party who's going to be Debbie Downer in the corner. You're that person.
It's like, well, he's only 30. He's 39 years old, right?
Oh my gosh! And next you're going to complain about my toast is too burnt, whatever it is. There's always going to be something with you, right?
My beer is too cold.
But yeah, maybe Giordano, and if Engvall definitely has the physical capability in terms of what is he 6'4", 225, something like that, with 2% body fat.
There you go. He'd be the pro. He's I like that actually. He's kind of like the prototypical what you would think as you'd look at him and be like, that's the next guy. You'd give he's the next world champion for sure.
Yeah. Well, and he's a good looking dude. So he checks all the marks. We just have to up that intensity a little bit.
There you go. Yeah. And I was gonna say, but Giordano, that's something I've always really respected about him as well. And somebody asked him, the reporter was like, how do you feel about the pressure or when they were playing poorly, how do you feel about all the noise outside? He's like, I love it. Why? I love playing in Toronto. Like the noise gets me going. And to me, I was like, yes, this guy gets it.
I mean, you got to figure, he played his career in Calgary, so maybe not to the extent or level of Toronto's pressure, but still, Canadian market, a fan base that loves their team. He's used to this kind of stuff. And also, as a player, you don't want to be in Arizona playing in the Mullet Arena. You want to be in that pressure cooker. I don't know. I look at it from my perspective, right? I love when we go to Chicago because that crowd is just going to be, and I think, a guy like that seems to appreciate it. And you got to remember, too, in 2019, he's a Vezina Cup, or Norris Trophy. Sorry, he won the Norris in 2019. I mean, that's not that long ago.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. Yeah. Like he was 36, I guess, or 35 when he won the Norris. That's actually pretty wild when you think about it. That he was doing that at that age ago. For sure. Yeah.
3.5, 4 years ago. So the fact that when Riley went down, I was like, oh man. And Ben and who else was out at that point? Liljegren was out at that point. I was like, man, this could get ugly. But to me, that was not the first time, but the way the team rallied with all of those losses and then went on that streak, I went, wow, I don't think that would have happened a couple of years ago. Riley, to me, he's kind of the backbone of that team with the amount of time that he plays. He's on the PK. If there's overtime, he's out there. That was a huge loss, and they just rallied the troops. And then you get guys like
as well
just playing solid. And if you watch him on the blue line, he's just the way he can keep it in and just toss it off to somebody. Even tonight, there was a couple of times where the puck was about to clear the zone, and he was right there and made some really great plays to get it back and get the pressure back on.
Yeah, and so I was actually going to ask. So what did you see because you said if this was last year, 2-3 years ago, the team might have cratered with all the defensive injuries. So what did you see as the difference with this team when they had literally no defenseman? Now they're getting healthy, but when they had no defenseman, what did you see from this team that allowed them to rally the way they did?
I think Tavares obviously already was, but I think the other three of the core four have matured.
Yeah.
I think they're becoming men. And because you got to think about how young those guys still are, let alone were throughout these last few years. And I don't care what anybody says. It takes time to really do whatever profession it is, whatever sport it is. It's so rare for somebody to come straight out of the gates and just dominate. And they have to a degree, but I think playoffs are just a different beast altogether. And it feels like the mentality has changed this season. I was really worried when Muzzin went down, and still worried about him from a personal standpoint. But to me, he was always kind of the Rock of Gibraltar back there. But Giordano, I think, was massive and has been massive, probably doing a lot of things that none of us see in terms of just keeping everybody dialed in, calm. We see the difference with Hall already, just, when he's been playing with them and how he's calmed down through some of the, a couple of shaky games. And of course, you have 1 or 2 shaky games in Toronto and look out. But I mean, even look back, and it's I love that the fan base is passionate, but really we're going to talk about firing Sheldon Keefe after 4 or 5 losses. I get it.
I think that's over. It's over.
Yeah, considering we also had a rough September last year as well. It's the same path that they're going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I think about guys like Sandin, hopefully he's okay. And guys that are getting shot, a lot of it is reps. When you're a healthy scratch and then you come back, healthy scratch, now those guys are getting consistent playing time and they're showing what they can do with more responsibility. And sometimes when injuries happen like that, it's a great opportunity for those guys to step up and really show that they can be a regular fixture on the team.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest update that's the biggest factor, I guess, like with this team this year specifically, is that they're able to really dive into the depth of the roster and get the most out of all of these players, right? We've had a lot of issues with not only our defensemen, but even our goaltend. We've had a lot of injuries, right? Like Samsonov has had injuries. Murray, I mean, he's also had injuries, and all of these guys, we just see a good buy-in from the players, right? Sheldon Keefe has done a great job of trying to keep these guys responsible and keep these guys motivated to play for their spot, right? And I think that's a big plus going into the playoffs, right? And especially from our forward group as well, right? We're not so heavily reliant on Matthews. By all intents and purposes, Matthews is a lot has slowed down from last year, right? He's still producing fantastically, don't get me wrong, right? But we're seeing the rest of the players around him pick up as well, right? We're just seeing the team dynamic grow, and it's just fantastic to see, and really brings a lot of a hope, I guess, like to the fan base, right?
Well, and I don't even think it's a matter of that Matthews isn't playing as good. I think he's playing more of a two-way game.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And he's really, like, if you watch him, man, he gets a lot of turnovers, and his stick work is just insane. And I feel like that's the biggest difference in his game, is that you hear every interview the team say it starts with D and we'll get our chances. It starts with defense, we'll get our chances. And it feels like everyone has fully bought into that now. And you see what's happened. Like, the only reason Boston is ahead of them is because of that ridiculous streak they went on at the beginning of the season, right? Nice. Where I think, what are they, 19-0 at home, or until they played
something
Vegas.
ridiculous.
It's just still going.
Yeah, it was funny though. True. Within that period, though, the one loss, or one of the few losses, was to the Leafs as well. Funnily enough.
There you go.
It'll be interesting to see the Leafs go to Boston. That'll be a good game.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we have a bit of an update on Rasmus Sandin, and by update, this is literally the tweet. No update on Rasmus Sandin per Keefe. This is from Mike Stevens. Will be evaluated in the next day or so. Keefe did say pulling him from the game was more precautionary than anything. So sounds like it's probably just his neck is tight and they're not wanting to hurt him any further.
Might have pulled something. Yeah, it doesn't look too serious. It was weird though, because we had no idea what really happened, right? It seemed like he was there for the Matthews goal, and then all of a sudden, the next minute, he's off the ice, right? So yeah, I can't imagine it'd be something too serious, but hey, fingers crossed, right? Because Sandin has been playing well for us so far.
Yeah, he's really stepped up. His speed. He is not the biggest guy, but he still tries to play physical, which I appreciate. I think where it turned around for him is when who did he fight? Remember when he got that scrap?
Yes. Wallstrom. The name was Wallstrom, right? I forget the first name. What is Wallstrom from the Islanders?
Islanders, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like that was a moment for him where it was like, okay, this guy is. He wants to be on this team, and he wants to be a regular, and he wants this spot.
Yeah, he needs to be good, because he needs to be physical and be ready to fight, because we have to play Enter Sandman when he gets angry. Like, you have to play that. Sleep with one eye open. That's it. It has to be like, if we can get the dark side of Rasmus Sandin, we can make that a thing for us podcast. Like, we have to make it a thing. But if he's playing timid, we can't use Metallica, It just
it doesn't necessarily fit. You might play ABBA instead. The Swedish thing,
So
speaking of the Swedes, though, I mean, my gosh, this team and their Swedish players, like every one of them. I mean, half the damn team is Swedish, I think, and but all just so good. I'm really like all of them. Liljegren too, like that. He is one of those guys that just does his job so consistently. He can hit, he can shoot, you can put him on the PK. Like, he's a really good player. And what was that one game where they were killing the penalty? Marner lost his stick and Sandin was out there. I mean, it it's moments like that where you see the team kind of rallying around each other and becoming more cohesive. And it's just fun to watch them. They're really fun, enjoyable team to watch, even if they lose. It's just, they're a great, skilled team. They're never really going to be out of a game, kind of like, Tampa showed they aren't really out of a game either tonight. I enjoy watching good hockey. I don't even care if it's the Leafs. Like, I like watching the Bruins. I don't like them, but I like watching them because they're good. Fair. And I like watching them play Vegas because I know it's going to be a great game. And, I just enjoy good hockey. And the Leafs play amazing hockey. They're just fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. So I just want to shout everybody out. We have Adam Copeland, aka Edge, here. Make sure you make sure you subscribe, make sure you tell all your friends. Hey, every time you like our show, a butterfly gets its wings. It's science. Okay, look it up. Anyway, so I have a question to ask. Now, I know that you are clearly a Leafs super fan. Now, when you were in your time, either in the past or right now in the WWE, who else in the WWE did you share a love for hockey with? Like, who else was a fan of, either the Leafs or other teams as well?
So Jay Rizzo, Christian,
Yeah.
both he's from Orangeville as well. So we grew up loving hockey and wrestling. And so him and I will always, kind of catch up on what we think of the last game and everything like that. He is one of those guys that has his one spot on his couch, has to sit there, will not move the entire game. Like, if he has to go to the bathroom, he won't go. Because if the Leafs are winning, because it will break his juju that he has going. Because he thinks this, where his ass sits, somehow affects the Sami Zayn, Montreal fan. But we enjoy talking hockey. Those guys all have a fantasy league. I don't. I'm not a fantasy league guy. But Jay's team is called Moves Like Yager.
That is so good.
And he always wins, which pisses everyone off. So,
and you know what's
and Luke Harper, John Huber, he was a massive Leafs fan from Rochester, New York. Loved the Leafs, loved Gilmore, loved that whole era. Yeah, so those were kind of our hockey guys. A lot of the crew guys are hockey guys too. The camera guys and the production guys.
Nice.
Yeah. Rest in peace. Rest in peace to Brody Lee / Luke John Huber, of course. So you mentioned Christian / Jay Rizzo. I don't know if you caught him on his show on AEW where he was in Toronto and he's a heel and he used the Toronto Maple Leafs not making out of the first round to garner heel heat.
He told me about it.
I have to ask, because I looked it up. Like, I'm a big wrestling fan, and I looked it up. I had to find it. Did you, in your time, because I know you spent a lot of your time as a heel, did you ever use the Leafs in a way to get heel heat in Toronto? Because I couldn't find it.
I don't believe so. I always just figured in Toronto it was always going to be difficult, but I can't. Not the Leafs.
It's too much.
Argos, Blue Jays, sure, but not the Leafs.
Not the Leafs.
No.
It's like
hold a special place in your heart, eh?
Some of my first memories of childhood are watching the Leafs. Like, I remember sitting in my grandparents' basement, shag carpet because it's the 70s, and all my uncles who all played were all goalies except for my one uncle Rick was a forward, and I just, one of my first tangible memories that was Leafs Islanders. I believe it was 78 playoffs, and I so clearly remember sitting there. And so when you have memories like that, it becomes more than a fan thing. It really, just watching a Leafs game reminds me of my family, or reminds me of being back in Canada, or it's those memories that watching something with your family, a sport, can build that. And and just the eternal wishing every year and talking to my uncles like, okay, we got it this year. I love it. You love it. I really do. I love it. And that being said, I like the Devils. Always have. Ever since they came into the league. When they came into the league, I liked them because of their jerseys. Because I love the dark green and the red, and I just stuck by them too. If they play each other, I'm cheering for the Leafs though.
That was the question.
There you go.
Because I knew of the Devils fandom, but I wasn't gonna challenge you on it because to me, I don't think you have to be fan monogamous. I think you can cheer for other teams. Like in 2006, I jumped on the Oilers bandwagon because they made that miracle run to the final, and I shout out to we have Game Over Edmonton as well. So I became an Oilers fan for that time. So I think it's good. I don't think you have to stick to one team. I think, plus those New Jersey Devils jerseys with the green and red are probably the most underrated. Come on. Most underrated ever.
And so I still like the Devils. The Leafs are my team. I like when the Canucks were in the finals, I was so hoping they would win. I have a soft spot for the Canucks, and I wish when they were in there they had to beat Boston, but they didn't. And but again, I just enjoy good hockey. So if the Leafs aren't playing, and I see that, I don't know. Again, Vegas is playing Boston. It's like I'm watching that game because I know how good it's going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, I just want to stick with the wrestling theme. As I was saying, so the last time you were at Scotiabank Arena, you wrestled Damian Priest in the main event, and after the show went off the air, you spoke to the crowd and you said that next year, if plans are to be laid, you would like to wrestle your last match in Toronto. Now, I know that in life and in wrestling, things don't always go to plan, but if it were, up to you, who would you want to be the final opponent for Edge?
Oh man. Wow, that's tough. In a perfect world, Jay, Christian.
Yeah.
But I don't see that one happening. Only just because of our story and our friendship and our, like when I went down to that Lightning game, we sat out on, and just kind of sat out over the bay, and we just say idiotic stuff that only him and I know about and laugh for like 20 minutes. So you have the kind of friendship with somebody. And so that would be amazing, obviously. Man, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one because I think maybe somebody that I've never wrestled before, but then at the same time, it'd be good to get in there with somebody that I know I have really good chemistry with. So
I have an idea. And I
have an idea, but I don't want to spill the beans.
Oh, of course. We don't want you to spoil anything. But here's my idea. You can pitch it if you want. Since Sami Zayn, Montreal fan, Edge, Toronto Maple Leafs fan, Stanley Cup on a pole match. Let's go.
Oh, jeez.
Done. Book it. Let's go. Book
Stanley Cup on a pole.
Make it happen. Oh my goodness.
That would be something, eh?
That would be a sight for sure. And so when we were in Toronto, I didn't really have any plan of what I was going to say. I just started talking because I was enjoying being back home because it was the first time I was in Toronto since, pre-pandemic in 2019. And first time back there performing, never thought I'd perform there again. So being able to stand in that ring again and just kind of feel that feeling you get when it's your hometown. I just figured I'd grab a mic and start talking. But my contract's up in September of 2023. So I just, assume Toronto usually is on the calendar around August. So the timing could work out.
Yeah, that'd be something to see. Eh? And you're busy outside of wrestling too. I mean, you got that Percy Jackson series coming along. You'll be Aries on that. And I just want to say, on Vikings specifically, playing Cheto Flatnose, what you were fantastic on that. I'm a huge Vikings fan, so I'm so excited to see you dive further into acting and being able to play Ares on Percy Jackson. I am so amped. I grew up watching I grew up reading that entire series. I read Percy Jackson, I read the Olympians, the Heroes Olympus, and I am ecstatic. I can't wait for this to come out.
It's been pretty exciting. It was a fun opportunity for sure. I didn't realize quite the scope of the Percy Jackson world and franchise and brand. I mean, I've heard of it, but when those books came out, even when the two movies that apparently didn't stick close to the books came out, I was in the grind. I was on the road 220 days a year. So if it happened from essentially like 2001 to 2011, I didn't catch it. And that's the pocket that those books came out and everything. So once I got the role, I was like, I got to read these books. And then I flew through it and started to understand the scope of what that franchise is. And it's been a blast. We film out in Vancouver, so I get to go back out there, which is amazing because I love Vancouver. And the role is just, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of right down my Edge from 2006 wheelhouse. So it's been fun to dip into that again too. But yeah, I mean, hell, if you had told me that at 49 years old I'd be collecting a paycheck from Disney and WWE at the same time, I'd probably think you're pretty crazy.
All right, so I will see here. So, do you think the Leafs have too much money in the big three to make a deep run in the playoffs? That's Jason Pratt. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry.
I mean, personally, I think one of the two issues it seemed was always D and goaltending, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a firm believer in both goalies from the beginning of the season. And I know there was any interview I did, well, what do you think of the goaltending? I was like, what do you mean? What do I think? It's, you got a guy, Matt Murray, who's won two Stanley Cups. I think he's like 11-4 maybe in Stanley Cup Finals games. He has 2 shutouts. He's still young, like in terms of he's got some years ahead of him. He's got experience. I don't see the problem. If you're judging him off of playing for Ottawa, I don't think that's a fair criteria because they weren't exactly a powerhouse in front of him, right? And so I thought him and Samsonov is a good 1-2 punch if they can stay healthy. And in terms of goalie injuries, it seems to be an epidemic throughout the league. It's not just the Leafs goalies. And the D was always the other issue. And I really feel strongly that this is a good defensive core. I mean, you get Ben back, you get Riley back. I mean, a perfect world, you get Muzzin back. Man, you look at that now, and that is some serious defense. I don't know what changes you make except maybe to get another physical forward, like a really physical, hard-hitting forward.
Who would you want that to be? Like, who would be like your, speaking as a fan, who would your trade deadline acquisition be to make that final push to the playoffs?
Oh, man.
And what role specifically? Because we have quite a bit. We have some open spots, right? I mean, like that top 2 as well, right? Top 2 left. Yarncroc has filled out pretty well so far, but injuries, right?
It's guys like Maroon and Perry. You watch the way they played tonight, and anytime they were on the ice, man, they pushed it into the Leaf zone, and they just got in there. Those kind of guys, and Maroon's a big dude, so more like that possibly. So that way, if someone's getting pushed around, or if there is that Marner hit at the end of the period, there's someone who can really step up. And I don't know who that is though, or who that is that would be available.
Hey, we did pick up Dryden Hunt yesterday, right? And he is another big body guy, right? He's probably going to be slotted into that 4th line with Czar and Holmberg, right? That's another big body guy that could get down and dirty, right? And really throw his body around as well.
Yeah, and that's the first thing I thought when I saw that trade, because I like Malgin. I liked his hustle. He was quick, skilled.
Are you part of the Malgin hive?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. But I think, some size, some aggressive size would be pretty great. Yeah, I think, a guy like, Wilson from Washington, would be, that kind of player.
Let's go.
Right. I mean,
that's a tough one. It would be a tough one to get, but that would be
I know, but that
acquisition.
type of, like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our time here. We want to say thank you so much, Mr. Adam Copeland, for jumping on for Game Over Toronto today. It's been a real pleasure for myself, for Harnish, and the rest of our chat and everybody watching. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to yourself and your family. And thanks again for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge.
Thanks for having me, guys. And you have me up way past my bedtime, and I actually managed this, because usually right after the Leafs game, I go straight to bed. So the fact that my lids aren't, dropping, I'm actually quite happy.
That makes you feel
Unless
good.
I'm on Monday Night Raw and I have to be
up. Yeah, you sacrifice sleep to be with us. That makes us feel really good. It warms our heart. Thank you very much again. Take care.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Happy
It's
holidays.
been amazing.
Game over. Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.